guys, today's tutorial is a Kandi Bikini. This is an intermediate level tutorial. You're going to need a basic understanding of peyote stitch and how to make a double. This is our list of materials. You're going to need elastic stretch cord. This is 0.5 millimeter. I'm not going to be using this. I prefer 1.2 millimeter. And always fabric string. I don't think that bead and stretch or stretch magic is strong enough. I feel like it's going to break or it wears down over a period of time. Whereas when you have fabric string, even if the elastic inside gets hot and breaks down, you still have that fabric that holds it together. I just, for something that you're going to wear, I feel that you need something sturdy. So I wouldn't use anything that was less than 1 millimeter thick. And here's an example, like this is some 1.2 versus a 0.5 millimeter. And because I've ran out of 1.2 millimeter at the time, but you can see the big size difference between those. You will also probably want some fishing line. This is 30-pound test. What I use fishing line for is for the back of the neck, but I've known some people who, when they make their Kandi bikinis, only make the triangular pieces and connect it with ribbon. If you're going to do that, then fishing line might be an option, but personally, if you're doing like a back strap and all that stuff, elastic is still a way to go because you need that to be stretchy to fit over and everything. We're going to need a measuring tape so we can take measurements, scissors, and any kind of beads that you want to use. Our next step is to take measurements. We're going to measure all the way around the bust so we can get the measurements for our back strap. We're also going to have to measure from the top of where we want our bikini to start to the very bottom of where we want our bikini to end. Where the red dots are located is what we call the skeleton, which is the middle of our Kandi bikini. This is the basis of the entire bikini. You will need to cut a very large piece of elastic cord. Once you've cut it, you're going to take your two ends and line them up. This is our skeleton, and we're going to start at the bottom, right here where the arrow is pointing. So what we do is we take our two strings and we separate them and add one bead on each side. So those are going to fall on what I'm going to call the bottom loop here on the diagram, and then we're going to place our two ends back together and add one bead onto both of the strings. If you've ever made a Kandi hair bow, it's almost the same exact thing. Then we're going to separate out our strings once again and add on one bead to each side of the string, and then put our string back together and put one bead on both of the strings. And we're going to repeat this until we have our skeleton finished. Once you have finished your skeleton, you should end up with something that looks like this. We're going to end up tying a knot here so that our beads don't slip off. Now, before we string on any beads, we need to take our string and string through not the top bead, but the one directly below that. And what we're doing is we're going to start that triangle by stringing down through that secondary bead. When you make a Kandi bikini, you work on one side of the bikini at a time. So I'm choosing to work on the left side. Now that you have your string coming out of your second bead, we're going to add on a bead. And just like you would with any other flat peyote, you're going to string through the next bead that is poking up. And you continue to add beads until you've reached the bottom of that row. Once you've finished your first row, it will look something like this. We're going to add on another bead and string up through the bead that you just strung on, which is going to create another bead on your base layer. And we're going to string our beads all the way up to the top. As you string on the last bead you can in this row, your string will be popping out of a vertical angle. So where do we go from here? We take our string and put it back through the bead that we just strung on, just like we did with the first row, right before we added our first bead on. And what this does is it allows us to go back down and add more beads on and continue that triangle pattern. And it will keep doing this process, and it will create that diagonal angle that you get in that triangular piece for your bikini. Once you've reached the end of one side of the triangular piece of your bikini, I personally leave a little bit of the tail hanging out so that I can tie it on later for a strap or whatever I need, and continue the same process on the opposite side. So our next step is to create the middle strap that holds these two pieces together. And the way that we're going to do that is depending on basically the size of your bikini, you might need more support, and if you needed more support, then you want your column in the middle to be bigger, versus if you need less support, then it can be thinner in the middle. I'm making a small mini bikini for a stuffed animal, so I'm going to make a very small one. So what I like to do is use the leftover string, and so I will tie a knot at the end of it to make sure that my bikini is tight, and then I will use that string to continue to make that bridge in the middle. But it's not necessary. If you've already cut off your string or something, then you can always use a new piece of string. That's okay. And so once I've tied my knot, I string up through that corner bead there. Actually, I went up through 2 of the corner beads. My bad. So 2 of those beads. And so we're going to add on a white bead. Shit. Now we're going to take on our string and add on a white bead. And now we are going to string down through that corner bead. So this is going to place our white bead directly on top of it, like that. Now we're taking our string, adding on another white bead, and stringing up through the white bead that you just added on. And now, after we get through the white bead, we're going to string on a new bead, and then down through that other white bead that you just added on, and this is going to give you that kind of chain effect that I'm using for the bridge. Let's say that if you needed more beads, like if you wanted to do 4 or 5 rows in the middle to make sure that it's really secure and that you have that support, instead of stringing up 2 of the rows like I did on mine, you would probably string up like the 5 or 6 beads or whatever you want, however many beads, and then continue that process of going down and adding on the bead and stringing down, just like I did here. It's just you do it more times, and it's still going to create that chain pattern. It'll just be thicker. So once you've gotten to the point where you think that you've gotten just about enough, make sure that on the top row it pokes out where it lines up perfectly with the other corner, so you've got the diagonals that match up. That way when you string it on, it all matches up and you don't have to worry about adding new beads or whatever. So we string through the first blue bead and then up through that white bead. Like so, and it adds it. You see how it just matches up perfectly like this? Now we're going to take our string and string all the way up through the top of the bikini and out the top. And this is going to secure that middle piece on. Now, if you felt that you might want to do it a couple more times and string through it, there's really no precise way that you need to attach it. You can do whatever you want. This is just personally how I like to attach it, but you can get creative with it. Just make sure that you just zigzag through the bead so it hides your string. And there you go. You now have the centerpiece for your Kandi bikini. Our next step is the strap. We're going to do it the same exact way we did the middle. And again, if you're making a bigger bikini, then you need a thicker strap for more support and whatnot. Personally, I like to have even more support from the back than I do even in the middle. But it's really up to you how you want to do it, if you're following a pattern or whatever. But again, we're doing the same chain idea like we were before, and you continue that all the way over. Now, remember the measurements that we took in the very beginning, the one that goes all the way around your bust? So when you're making your strap, make sure that you use that measurement. So from one side to the other side, and it comes out eventually to be that measurement. So when you do put it around, it will fit right. Even personally, I would like to put a couple extra beads on there because it's always better to have it a little bit loose rather than tight and be worried about it breaking or something. Now that we have finished our strap, we're going to need to attach it onto the other side, exactly like we attached the middle to the other side of the triangular panel. And once you're finished with this, then I'm going to walk you through how to create your next strap. We're going to take a new piece of fishing line and string through the bead on the left side, the second bead in that row. And we're also going out through the top bead, like so. So your string should now be going through 2 beads. We're going to take the other side of the string and string through the other bead, the right side of the bead, second bead, and out to the top. So basically your string is going through 3 beads, and you should have your strings coming out together. And basically what it does is it loops around those 3 beads, so you've got a solid strap with 2 strings. And personally, I usually like to do a double for my strap, but because this is for a stuffed animal, I'm only going to do a single. So I'm going to put my beads on both strings. Now that we have finished putting all of our beads on our string, we need to attach it to the other side. So we're going to take both strings and place it through that first top bead. Then we're going to separate our strings out, place one string through the left bead directly below it, so it's that second bead on the left side, string through there and pull your string out. And we're taking the other string and stringing through the right second bead. Once you have both strings out, we're going to tie a knot to secure this. Now we're going to take our loose ends and just string through any random beads that you really want to. I'm kind of going to go down the skeleton again, like we did in the beginning, so putting our string together and separating it out all the way down through the middle beads. You can go down the side, anywhere you want. The reason that I'm doing this is to, number one, hide that knot and hide the strings, but it also, with fishing line, sometimes you have an issue of it not tying tight enough. So if you restring through other beads, it stops that knot from being able to untie, because when you weave it through, it causes tension, so it's going to hold that string in place. And then whenever you get to the end and you feel like it's secure, just snip it off and you're done with your Kandi bikini. I hope that this tutorial was helpful, and please rate, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Bye!